Have you ever dreamed of moving to a state with no income tax? For many people, Texas seemed like the ultimate haven, a place where you could keep more of your hard-earned money and live the good life. But, as we're about to discover, this no income tax promise is a lie of omission. It's a marketing tactic that's been used to lure millions to the Lone Star State, and it's a lie that is now collapsing under the weight of its own success. Let's call this what it is, a financial trap. The state has to get its money from somewhere. And it does, through some of the highest, most aggressive property taxes in the entire nation. A recent study found Texas has the third highest effective property tax rate at 2.14%. This isn't a small gotcha. For a median-priced home, this is a separate, invisible mortgage, an extra $6, $7, or even $10,000 a year, due forever. This financial illusion is compounded by a cost of living that is now 11.4% higher than the national average. You aren't just paying more for your house, you're paying a premium for everything. The no-income tax benefit isn't just disappearing, it's being completely overwhelmed. So if the financial benefit is an illusion, what about the other promise? What about the high quality of life? Unfortunately, that promise is being broken by a single, catastrophic failure: rapid, unplanned growth. This is the story of a state that built a 10-lane highway, but forgot to build an exit. The power grid, ERCOT, is perpetually on the brink of failure, a fact that's become a terrifying, seasonal reality for millions. The highways themselves are a case study in paralysis. You may have escaped the 405 in LA, only to find yourself on I-35 in Austin, a stretch of road that is now statistically worse. This influx has created a desperate housing shortage, a feeding frenzy where prices have become untethered from reality, and the median home price in major cities has skyrocketed. But this social conflict, this us versus them mentality, isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's the flammable tinder, and the gasoline is the daily, grinding failure of the Texas miracle itself. The problems don't exist in neat little boxes. The tax trap, the crumbling roads, the housing crisis, they are all part of the same nightmare. This is the story of the great financial and logistical trap and how it snaps shut. Let's call this first chapter the Golden Handcuffs. The dream for so many was a bigger house for less money. You sold your 1,200 square foot bungalow in California, and you bought a 4,000 square foot palace in a suburb of Dallas or Austin. You felt like a king, but this is where the trap first sets its teeth. You had to drive till you qualify, moving 30, 40, or even 50 miles outside the city center to find that affordable new build. You are now quite literally stranded in a sea of identical rooftops, an hour away from civilization. And that 1-hour drive? That was on a Saturday. On a Tuesday morning, that drive is 2.5 hours, each way. That freedom you moved for is now spent in a metal box on Interstate 35 or the Katy Freeway. A stretch of concrete so vast, it's become a global symbol of failed urban planning. This isn't just traffic. This is a complete breakdown of mobility. You are spending 3, 4, 5 hours of your life every single day just commuting. That's 750 hours a year, 31 full days. You are paying just to sit still. You're burning hundreds of dollars a month in gasoline, negating any cost of living savings you thought you had. You leave before the sun is up. You get home after it's dark. You see your children on weekends. This isn't freedom. It's a prison of your own making, built with cheap lumber and a 30-year mortgage. But the real bill hasn't even arrived. Remember that property tax bill we mentioned? That was based on last year's value. In Texas's hyperinflated market, your home's value is reassessed constantly. And that palace you bought? Its value just jumped 40%. Your tax bill is now $10,000. Next year, it's $14,000. You are now paying more in property taxes than you ever paid in income tax. You are house poor in the middle of nowhere, trapped in a home you can't afford and can't even leave because of the traffic. And here's the kicker. What are you getting for those $14,000 in property taxes? In other states, that money funds legendary public schools, pristine parks, and efficient public transport. In Texas, the schools are a constant political battleground, and the infrastructure is collapsing. You're paying a premium price for a discount product. And where does that premium price supposedly go? The number one justification is school funding. Texas, with no income tax, funds its public schools almost entirely through these local property taxes. This has created a brutal, two-tiered system. Wealthy suburbs can fund world-class schools, while even middle-class areas struggle, forcing them to raise rates higher and higher just to keep the lights on. It's a desperate scramble for resources, pitting neighbor against neighbor, and it's fueling a tax revolt from residents who are seeing their bills double. For schools that are overcrowded from the very growth that's causing the problem, you are paying a private school price for a public school system that is buckling. Let's call the next chapter, The Landlords You Can't See. But maybe you're not even buying. You thought you'd rent for a few years, get the lay of the land, and you've walked right into the next phase of the trap. You're not just competing with other families, you're competing with Wall Street. Texas, more than almost any other state, has become the promised land for institutional investors, BlackRock, Invitation Homes, the iBuyers. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations, buying up thousands of single-family homes, often sight unseen, paying cash, and turning them into permanent rentals. The starter home no longer exists. It's been bought by a hedge fund, which will then rent it back to you for $3,000 a month. The American dream of homeownership is being systematically dismantled and replaced with a subscription service for shelter. This isn't just a financial transaction, it's the systematic hollowing out of communities. A neighborhood owned by Wall Street is not a neighborhood. It's a collection of assets. There's no neighbor to borrow a cup of sugar from. It's a transient population of renters with no long-term stake in the community, the schools, or the local politics. The community you thought you were buying into, that dream of block parties and neighborhood watch, is dead on arrival. It's been replaced by a QR code for a maintenance request and a 10% rent increase, automatically delivered every 12 months. The American dream has been reclassified as a long-term real estate investment vehicle, and you're not the investor. You're the revenue stream. You are now a permanent tenant in a state you moved to build equity. You have zero power. You have zero control. Your rent just went up 30%? Too bad. Pay it or move. Into what exactly? Every other home on the block is owned by the same company. This leads us to the third, more terrifying chapter, the fear. The infrastructure isn't just inconvenient, it's becoming dangerous. Every Texan, new and old, now lives with a low-grade hum of anxiety. In the summer, it's the ERCOT text alert, the dreaded conservation appeal. The message that begs millions of people to not use their air conditioning in 110-degree heat because the grid, the backbone of a first-world state, might just disintegrate. People are now buying generators, not for a hurricane, but for a hot Tuesday afternoon. And in the winter, it's the memory of 2021, the memory of pipes bursting, of millions in the dark, of a state that prides itself on energy freezing to death. That fear hasn't gone away. Every time the temperature drops, the anxiety spikes. The growth at all costs model forgot to build the most basic systems to support that growth. And this wasn't an accident. It was a choice. The Texas Power Grid, ERCOT, is famous for one reason. It is an island. It intentionally isolated itself from the two major national grids to avoid federal regulation. That Texas freedom you heard about? That's what it looks like. It's the freedom to not winterize power plants. It's the freedom to not build reserve capacity. After the 2021 freeze, the state legislature, in a now infamous move, passed reforms so weak that grid experts warn another catastrophic failure is not a matter of if, but when. The entire system is a high-stakes gamble, and your family's safety is the ante. But the grid is only the most famous disaster. The growth at all costs model has created a new problem. Houston, for example, has become the concrete jungle capital of America. Developers, with little to no regulation, have paved over tens of thousands of acres of natural prairie and wetlands, the very land that used to absorb the rain. Now, when it rains, it floods, catastrophically. The 500-year flood is now happening every 2 years. That beautiful new-build home in that master-planned community, it wasn't master-planned to account for the fact that it's now sitting in a 10-square-mile concrete bowl. You didn't just buy a house, you bought a future insurance nightmare. And it's not just the grid or the floods. In many of these new pop-up suburbs, the water systems are failing. Boil water notices are becoming routine. You've paid $700,000 for a new home, and you can't drink the water from the tap. This is the breaking point. This is the moment the illusion shatters. And it's not a slow crack. It's an explosion. Imagine this. You are the new mover. It's 6 p.m. You've been in traffic for 2 hours. You're still 30 minutes from that giant house you've come to hate. Your phone buzzes. It's an alert from your smart thermostat. Your power company has remotely turned off your AC to save the grid. It's 102 degrees outside. Your kids are home with a babysitter, sweating. Your phone buzzes again. It's a notification from your banking app. Your monthly mortgage payment has posted, and it's $1,200 higher than last month because your new property tax assessment was just added to your escrow. You are sitting in gridlock, in the heat, going to a home you can't afford, with no power. You open social media to vent, and you see a post from a local community group. It's a picture of a car, with California plates cut off in traffic, and the comments are filled with vitriol. Go back where you came from. You're the reason the traffic is bad. You're the reason our taxes are high. And here is the most bitter, twisted part of this social breakdown. You are not the enemy they think you are. Many people who fled California or New York were conservatives. They moved to Texas for what they believed was political alignment. They were fleeing the very policies they thought were ruining their home states. And what did they find? They found a different, often more hostile, brand of politics, one that sees them, the Californian, as the problem, regardless of how they vote. They are blamed by the locals for the very disaster they were also lured into. You are politically, financially, and socially homeless. This is the great Texas buyer's remorse, and it's a trap that is snapping shut on tens of thousands of people. The Texas miracle wasn't a miracle at all. It was just arbitrage. It was a brief window in time where a state's resources, its land, its power, its infrastructure could be bought for less than they were worth. But that window is now closed. That arbitrage is over. The model of infinite growth with zero planning and zero foresight has failed. It's a logistical pyramid scheme, and the people at the bottom are the new residents who just arrived, holding a bill they can never hope to pay. And the final, devastating irony? The ultimate turn of the screw? That house you sold in California, the one you fled to cash out, is now worth $400,000 more than when you sold it. You can't afford to stay, and you can't afford to go back. You are trapped. You are the casualty of a marketing campaign sold as a dream. The truth is, the no income tax promise wasn't a promise at all. It was bait. And now, the state is collapsing under the weight of its own success. The Texas model has broken. The question is, which state is next? Because this same playbook, this growth at all costs fantasy, is being sold right now in Florida, in Tennessee, in Arizona. And the same bill is about to come due. Are you a casualty of the Texas miracle? Are you seeing the same thing happen in your state? Share your story in the comments. And if you want to keep digging into the truth behind the headlines, hit subscribe and like the video. We've got a lot more to cover.